What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is YZ Racing. Today I'm doing a little review on my YZ250X. I just recently hit 40 hours on it. I've taken it through single track in the woods. I've been on the MX track with it. I've raced it. I feel ready to give my official opinion of the bike. I'm going to go through some of the positives and the negatives, just kind of dart through them very back and forth on the good and the bad, and let you guys know what I think about the bike. Here we go. First thing that I'd like to say about the bike is the price. The price is very good. It comes in like $4,000 less than its KTM brother, the KTM 300 two-stroke. But it doesn't come with as many bells and whistles, so it's kind of a trade-off. It doesn't come with that counter rotational shaft that makes the vibration less. It doesn't come with the oil injection, and importantly to many, it does not come with the Kickstarter. So it is cheaper, but you're going to be missing out on some of those nice to have. So that's kind of a positive and a negative. If you're trying to race the bike, I think a Kickstarter is essential to get rid of. It's very cumbersome, especially if you're in a tough situation where you can't really get a good kick on it. It can cost you those precious seconds if you're really trying to be fast out there. If you're just kind of joyriding, which I do 90% of the time, 95% of the time, it doesn't really matter, but sometimes when I'm trying to put a good lap down and I stall by accident, it'd be nice just to have that easy start button. So that's the good about it, is that it's cheap. The bad is that you're missing the bells and whistles, like getting that nice push button start. Next positive that I'd like to talk about is that it's a very versatile bike. If you saw in the intro there, I was riding it on a motocross track. It can do motocross. I think it's pretty effective on the motocross track. It does have a different gearing. It's got like a wider 5-speed transmission, so it's more suited for single track, but you can get out there and you can hit some jumps. You can mess around on the MX track. It's not a very good dedicated MX bike though. It's missing that like sharp power input, because on that transmission it's got that smoother low to mid range, so you can still get out there, you can still have fun. A novice like me out on the track was able to have a great time. I've only done the MX track one time and I thought it was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. So it can get out there. You get some weird looks because you got your kickstand out there and stuff like that with the 250X, but once you start riding it and you kind of get the hang of it, it's not so bad. The suspension is a little bit soft for MX, so that is a downside to it. It's tuned so that you can have a more comfortable, woods ride. This is a cross-country bike. It's made for cross-country racing, so it wants to absorb all the bumps and the roots and stuff like that you're going to run into. So when you're hitting some big jumps out on the MX track, bang, you might bottom it out. I did respring this suspension just for my weight. That's pretty common for most bikes. If you're a heavier set dude, I weigh like 220 with gear. Just the spring that the bike comes with isn't going to be enough. So most people out there will probably have to respring their bike for their weight. That's pretty normal to have to do. But I was pretty happy that I was able to get out there on the MX track. My one love, though, is probably out in the single track in the woods, and that is the next thing that I want to talk about. The agility of the bike. It has a lot to do with the weight. It has an aluminum frame, keeps it nice and light. It weighs 229 pounds wet, which is super light. The only lighter bike that you're going to find is probably the 125 version of it. I think it comes in at like 210 pounds, but it is a very light bike. It allows you to whip around corners super easy. It's very flickable, as a lot of people like to put it. You can flick it around those corners. It's super fun in the woods and super controllable, especially because it has a lot of little tiny things that make it just a little bit better for the woods. So I talked about the weight, that's a huge thing, but also too, the tire size on the rear tire is 18 inches in diameter. That's awesome for the woods because it allows you to have a higher sidewall on your tires. That's going to give you more grip out there, so you can really get into those turns. It's going to latch in to the ground, and you're going to be getting that really great traction with your tire setup. Same thing with the wider ratio 5-speed transmission, where it lacks on the MX track, where it doesn't have that punch and the lower RPMs. That is kind of what you want in the woods. You want that ability to lug in those low to mid ranges. This bike can lug around quite well. You're not having to shift all the time. It's got really wide gearing, and it's got that smooth power input, so you can get that nice tractable power out of your engine. Really helps while you're out there, especially in some of the tougher conditions like the slidey pine straw, stuff like that, where you're really slipping and sliding around, don't want to run into any trees, that kind of thing. So those little details that make it great for the woods are super helpful, and they're something that I didn't even know I needed until I got them. One of the things I really don't like about it, though, is the stock fuel tank that they put on it. They put a 1.8 gallon tank on the bike, and that's just not enough fuel. I usually get about 40-ish, maybe 50 miles, depending on the terrain that I'm riding in and how I'm riding. That is not a very far range at all. So if you're trying to race the bike, you're probably going to have to plan in some fuel stops, and that can cost you precious time, whereas 4-strokes, they're much more fuel efficient. You can go for a lot longer on a tank. So I kind of wish that it had a larger stock tank, but then there's the trade-off with the weight, so I'm kind of I'm not really sure which one I'd prefer. Probably a slightly bigger tank would be nice, because I'm always carrying a fuel bottle with me, just so that I don't have to go back to my truck to refuel or whatever. So that would be nice. Oh, look, here's another example of why it needs a push-button start. That one, I was kind of in a bad situation, so I had to like roll back a little bit to where I could get my feet down, and then, of course, kickstart, and then I go off into the woods a little bit because it threw me off my game. See, it's just an example of where having to pull out the Kickstarter and actually kickstart it can just throw you off, and it can cost you precious seconds, especially in those race type scenarios. Not great. Also too, small side note, it does not come with stock handguards. If you're in the woods, you're going to need handguards. I prefer the flag style handguards. You can kind of get some glancing blows off trees. The full wraparound ones I had, honestly, they were good for protection. I just didn't like that they got all bent up, and they were always like messing with my levers and stuff like that, so I was always having trouble with the fitment. I just wish that it came with some nice stock flag style handguards, but that's more of a personal preference for me. Some kind of handguard is always nice on a woods bike. Alright, that's it for my 40-hour review of the bike. I went through some goods and some bads on the bike. Overall, I love the bike. I'm super happy with it. I think it's sick. Any bike you buy, you're going to have ups and downs with it. There is no unicorn bike, as everybody likes to say online, and that is absolutely true. So ride what you got and ride it hard. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Last couple of minutes of the video are just going to be me riding to some music. Enjoy.